Hey there, Goblin Army. I am the Goblin King, and I'm here with my last video for the week. It seems that I get to cover more of Amazon's latest revisionist fiction, Rings of Power. Yeah, I'm not even going to grace that shit show with its self-appointed title. That thing is nothing but a subtitle. A bunch of revisionist fiction run by two bad reboot Jar Jar Abrams, the great franchise killer acolytes, with a thin veneer of a popular, long-standing, much-loved franchise painted over it to try to make it appealing to fans and normies. It's bad cosplay. That's all this thing is. Revisionist fiction and bad cosplay. It doesn't deserve to be remotely associated with any of Tolkien's works. So, what made me come back to this well again? When I so obviously despise this shit and every woke, race-baiting communist talking point it stands for? Well, I love the fans. I love every actual fan of this, or really anything. I love the zealotry, the dedication, the loyalty, the sheer unabashed nerdy passion that fans have. I myself am a fan of plenty of things, so I understand all of these things that the true fans bring to the things that they love. I understand and love how fandoms can bring people together that may be complete opposites in basically everything else in life. From job to food to hobbies, education, politics, religion, and even sexuality or race. Yet if they both love this one thing, with the passion of a true fan, then they will come together as family. I love that, and I love that sense of camaraderie that a truly passionate fandom can bring. Love it. You know what I despise, though? What makes my blood boil and makes me see red? Disingenuous fans. Lip service fans. The types of fans that are only into something because it's the cool thing at that moment in time. The types of fans that want to come into a fandom, invade the spaces, and then change everything about it. Then push the old school fans out for being toxic, or whatever. For instance, all the MCU stans that suddenly become these great experts on a particular character or characters the moment a new movie comes out, when they weren't fans of that character before and all they did was read a Wikipedia article. Motherfuckers that never once picked up a Thor comic, or a Captain Marvel, or Miss Marvel, or America Chavez book, that suddenly want to lecture everyone else as though they're the experts. Fuck off. At least I'll freely admit that I never once read any of those comics, including Thor when it was apparently decent, and I'll kindly keep my stupid ass out of any discussions about it. So why do I bring this up? Well, an article recently came to my attention. Well, not an article, an essay, I should say. An article posted on what we've all come to know as a shill site, a bootlicking, dropping to their knees to gobble up that corpo frankfurter, disingenuous piece of shit site, in my opinion, the OneRing.net. As a disclaimer, I haven't watched a single video on this topic, even though I know that at least Clownfish TV and Ryan Kennel did videos on this very topic. I did read the Bounding into Comics article, which linked to the essay. Then I read the essay itself. So I'm coming at this relatively unbiased by others' opinions. Having read this garbage essay, I can say unequivocally that it is pure race-baiting trash. The author, known only as Earl, comes into the article under the veneer of having been a fan of Tolkien for the last 20 years. So basically since the original Peter Jackson trilogy came out. I'm not going to say with any real conviction that he's not a fan of Tolkien. Not at all. Plenty of people came into the fandom after seeing those movies. Not everyone was a voracious consumer of literature, especially fantasy, the way I was. So that idea is completely plausible. Maybe he fell in love with the world he saw on that screen 20 years ago and wanted to learn more about it and has been reading Tolkien ever since. I know of at least one person like that. However, would it surprise me in the least if the deepest this dude ever went was the extended editions of the movies and participating in message boards, forums, and fan sites? Absolutely not. Though, not knowing this person, I can't say that's a fact. Yet, if that were true, I can state that it would make him more of a Lord of the Rings fan and less of a fan of Tolkien himself. So, let's pick apart this essay. He starts out by heaping praise upon Amazon for daring to cover a relatively unknown time period in the Second Age. A time period that spans well over 1,000 years of the history of Arda, otherwise known as Middle-earth. What he fails to address while he's trying hard not to choke on that corpo meat is the justified criticism that Amazon has been getting from actual fans, not shills, for condensing down this relatively vast amount of time into a bare handful of years. 1,000 fucking years or more. For a little bit of perspective, 4 major Chinese imperial dynasties, That's not counting the smaller dynasties. 4 major dynasties rose and fell in the span of 1,000 years. You had the end of the Southern Song, the Mongol invasion and the Yuan dynasty, the Ming, and the invasion of the Manchu and the Qing dynasty. Also, that same 1,000-year period saw major social upheaval with Western interference and the fall of the last dynasty, the warlord period of the 20s, the rise of communism, the Japanese invasion, the ousting of democracy, the complete takeover of the CCP, the Cultural Revolution, etc., etc. That's a 1,000-year period of time in just one country. The time period we're talking about spans at least 1,500 years. Just saying. Yet, Amazon, in their infinite corpo wisdom, praised by this blowhard, wants to take that same amount of time, and from what I understand, equally major events that happen, and condense that down into a handful of years. Earl here doesn't even cover that or fan criticism of it. Nah, he's too busy with that salty taste in his mouth and race baiting. He continues to slobber all over that corpo sausage and praising the incompetent bad reboot apprentices, before going on to talk about how Amazon's show, quote, stays true to the essence of Tolkien's works, unquote. Which is something that these cultural vandals always say when they're adapting a body of work in bad faith and making completely unnecessary changes to the source material. Oh, we're staying true to the essence of the work. We're sticking to the core values and the message of the work. Tell me, Haas, is making Galadriel some sort of warrior staying true to the essence of Tolkien's work? Then, he follows that up with an outright lie. I mean, just a bald-faced fucking lie. He actually has the unmitigated gall, when we all have fucking twatter, to preface his next race-baiting bullshit with this. Talking about how Amazon's versions of Galadriel and Elrond were, quote, enthusiastically well received, unquote. The fuck they were. And the fuck they are. Nothing about those characters was well received by fans that are actually fans with functioning thought meat. Fans that have read Tolkien's complete body of work inside and out. They rejected these portrayals of Elrond and Galadriel just as vehemently as they opposed the blatant, unnecessary race swapping. I saw the twatter feed, you equivocating jackass. Hell, here's a quote from just some guy talking about this very thing. Quote, I don't recall Galadriel being described as angry or brash. Proud, yes. Clever, yes. But never angry. Never brash. But that does sound familiar. Where have I heard this before? It's the generic personality given to every action girl. I bet you're going to deck her out in armor with a half-shaved head and braids. Unquote. You're fucking lying, Earl. You're a lying liar who lies. Then he goes on about his race-baiting bullshit with the supposed dwarven princess and international news elf Don Legolas. I've already covered that in a previous video. Suffice it to say, it's an already proven liar, race-baiting and crying. Then he talks about this new chick, Bronwyn, stating that people are criticizing this character for being, that woke phrase that's just a reversal of colored people. Yeah. No. Lying again, Earl. Again, I saw the feeds, I saw the criticism, and I never once saw a single tweet about this girl. Not one. Hell, if I'm being honest, I didn't even know she was in this. Never saw a single mention of her at all. Wow, you really like to lie, don't you, Earl? He throws this in there about being that, new racism woke phrase, and how he got flack for it from the Tolkien community sometimes. Obviously, I wouldn't know anything about that, but just going by all the outright lies he's disseminating in the paragraphs before this, it wouldn't surprise me if he was lying about this too, as, a sort of oppression Olympics virtue signal for woke points. Then he uses that quote from the fake Tolkien scholar, the one, where she's honestly confused about how people would be disgusted by different races. Want to hear her actual job description? Bounding into Comics helpfully printed that out in their article covering this trash. Want to see? No, you do. She is, and I quote, the Equality and Diversity Officer for the University of Glasgow's Centre for Fantasy and the Fantastic. Unquote. What the actual fuck even is that? Have any of you ever heard of a more useless job description in the history of the human race? Even shit collectors are more useful than this bitch. What the fuck does that word salad of utter dog's bollocks even fucking mean? Wait. I know exactly what it means. It means woke university, whose only job is to create utterly useless brainwashed people, created a useless job for a useless person who got a useless degree in useless gender studies. There. Fixed your job title for you, Mariana Rios Maldonado. So, I can't tell if this next bit from this piece of trash essay is more lies, outright stupidity, or both, to be honest. It's definitely more race-baiting bullshit, and it feels completely disingenuous, but he could really just be that fucking stupid. Stating that because Tolkien's works have been translated into so many languages and loved by so many people across the world, that, surely, the non-white fans imagine these characters as themselves. Sorry, Chief, that's not how books and imagination work together. The imagination is informed by the descriptive text on the page, and as anyone who's read any of Tolkien's works knows, that man didn't ever scrimp on descriptive text. Described every tree and bush along the fucking journey, as well as every fucking person the Fellowship met. He used every word precisely where he meant to use it. So how can you even say something as utterly devoid of logic as that sentence? Oh, wait, I get it now. This moron's never actually read a book. See, there we go. Definitive proof that Earl here is only a fan of the movies and doesn't actually know what the fuck he's talking about when he tries to talk about Tolkien's works. Sorry, I'm honestly being facetious, people. I don't know that for sure. Yet it stands to reason that if this twat doesn't know how books work, make your own inferences. Anyway, he goes on with what a wonderful fan community the OneRing.net is, how they've always been critical of adaptations, how diverse and inclusive they are. Just 2 paragraphs after talking about how he had racism slung his way. He then talks about how the Shill website welcomes debate and discussion, and how it's a safe space for fans to discuss their thoughts. Another outright lie, since they condemn anyone being critical of Amazon's shit show by calling them racist and sexist. So, for my final thoughts, fuck you, Earl, and fuck the fake shill site OneRing.net. All hail the Fellowship, and hail to OneRing.com, a real Tolkien fan site. Alright, that's all I have for you on this one, Goblins. This thing ran way longer than I initially thought it would. As always, go out and look into this stuff for yourselves and inform your own opinions. I legitimately welcome anyone into the Goblin Army, even if you want to be critical. Go ahead and stick your thoughts in that comment section down below, if available. While you're down there, join the Viridian Horde by crushing the buttons that let you subscribe and like this video. I'll see you all on Monday with another day in pop culture. Have a great weekend. Lates.